Hello crafty friends, today I have ready 10 cards using the June Spellbinders card kit of the month called A Little Hello. And there's a little picture of the beautiful things we've got in the kit. Card number 1, I've taken the peachy pink paper and I've used a lacy edged A2 die to cut out that pretty panel to go on the front of my card base. Once I've got that attached in place using the tape in our kit, I've got a piece of the green cardstock that was one of the panels we received, and I've also run that through with the same lacy edge die, and I've got a little arrow there just to remind me that it fits best onto that background paper, that direction there. I've taken a slightly narrower piece of gold cardstock and I've run that through an embossing folder that I had in my stash, and it's got lots of little hearts detailed across the front there. And I will line up the little lacy loops on the border of both the patterned pink paper and the green cardstock and align it with the gold. Now that was getting that gold panel organised. Now I'm getting ready to create the background for my focal point, and I've taken the blue pattern paper to use as the background to my shaker card, and you can see there I've got my clear acetate in and then use foam strips to pop it up. I'm putting in a good assortment of our very pretty sparkly shaker mix that we've got there in the card, and I'm going to place that on top of my blue panel there. Now I did lose some of my footage, and as you can see there I've popped on the front some of our acetate butterflies, or one of the acetate butterflies, a couple of the butterflies from the ephemera pack, as well as I'm now just coming in and adding some of those little clay-like butterflies from the shaker mix in the kit. And I'm trying to balance that left-hand corner with the large floral butterfly image on the frame with the large acetate butterfly and the two little ones there by adding those little details. I'm then bringing in some unicorn stickles, and I'm adding a little bit of that over top of each of those white clay butterflies, just to give that gold sparkle to match back with the gold foiling. And there is card number 1 all finished, and it's got lots of pretty sparkle and shimmer. Card number 2, I've taken the patterned paper and layered on our adhesive tape, and you can see the patterned paper is the one with all the flags or banners, and on top of that I'm placing a smaller rectangle of paper, and that's more in the solid green patterned paper. It's very subtle, and I've taken one of the die cuts ephemera pieces in the kit, and you can see there I've trimmed it down by using a die and made a slightly smaller square shape with that piece so that I could cut nice and neatly a backing piece to go behind it. So while the glue sets on my little ephemera piece, I've prepared a strip of the pink pattern paper to go along one edge of our minty green paper. I'm then going to create a little thin strip of the white paper with the gold detail, and I'm going to place that alongside the pink grid-like pattern paper. And I've cut that so that I could have that, and it's not gold foiled, I should say, it's got the plus size signs printed on it. I am going to bring in some of my Love from Lizzie peel-offs, and I'm going to attach those to the top and bottom of my card. I'm using the wider, I think it's gold dust design, and gone around all the sides there of the backer piece. I've then cut myself a larger square of the brighter pink butterflied paper and rounded the corners. That's so I can then place on top my little swan piece that has been backed with a piece of vellum, and that just softens it all up and helps to frame the image. Okay, and that swan is popped up on some foam. And here I'm bringing in a little acrylic, I don't know what you would call it, but an embellishment, and it's a little pearly bow, and I just thought it looked very sweet sitting on the neck of our lovely little swan. I'm adding on one of our chipboard sentiments, which says, "Thinking of you." Actually, that might be one of our puffy stickers, not the chipboard stickers. And I did attach it with glue to make sure it would stick. To finish off, I've grabbed some of our sequins from our shaker mix, and that finishes up that card. Love a little bit of dimension on there, but not too much. Card 3, I've used an embossing folder to create a decorative edge on one of our dark navy blue card panels, and I'm then going to glue that so that the embossed panel is on the right hand side of my card, and I'm using the entire dark blue cardstock to cover the front of my card. Then I've taken a piece of the yellow paper and used my Lawn Form scallop die along one edge of the butterfly paper, and that mimics the pretty scallop design on our embossed section. Here you can see I've created a shaker element using the double frame, and I'm about to glue that onto my card front. Now, I'm not made a mistake here. It is deliberately being placed on the card upside down because I'm actually going to hide the sentiment on the frame. It's not a sentiment that I wanted to use. And so I wanted to show how you could use the frames in a slightly different way and have them adapted to the sentiment or theme that you want to use on your card. So I've covered the bottom where the sentiment is with a floral embellishment or die cut popped up on some foam. I'm then adding one of our acetate butterflies, and I'm also brought in a little yellow butterfly from the die cuts, and I've just tilted the wings up to give it a little bit of dimension as well. Now I'm bringing in a sentiment, and I think this may be from one of our previous kits because I didn't have a sentiment in this kit that I thought fitted in with or had the message that I wanted on this card. It says, "What a beautiful day." So that's a lovely sentiment to use for a number of different occasions. So I've just used my sparkle pen on top of my little yellow butterfly, and I'm giving a little bit more dimension and highlight to the pot or vase that the flowers are in using my Touch of Gloss by Pink and Main. And that will finish off that card. Card number 4, I'm covering the front of our card base with the lovely checked or plaid peachy pink coloured paper, and I'm using our tape from the kit to attach that nice and firmly to the card base. I'm then going to bring in 3 different sized banners to add to the front there, and you can see I'm going to attach these using glue. Sometimes I will use the tape, other times I'll use the glue. It just tends to be what I get my hands on first. The tape can be a little bit fiddly when you're trying to get into those nice points on the ends of the banners. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to place my 3 banners so they sit at slightly different lengths to each other. I don't know why that was so hard to say. Okay, so one last banner I'm going to go in and attach, and I'll make sure I've got glue in all those little corners. I don't want the little ends on my banners to pop up or lift. And you can see that last banner, I want it a little bit longer, so I'm bringing it down from the top of the cardstock. And that's okay because I've embossed a little strip of gold cardstock with an embossing folder that does a random dotty detail across the embossed paper. So just making sure I've got the glue nice and all the way across to the corners to make sure they don't lift up at all. And I'll give that a second to set in place. The glue's good because it does give you that few seconds to make any little adjustments if you need to. I'm bringing in one of the oval frames and I've got it lined with acetate. And now I'm peeling off the backing for the foam strips. Next, I'm going to come in with the glue to go over top of my foam. And you may like to do the glue before or after you add your shaker parts. Now this shaker part, I'm bringing in some of the smallest butterfly ephemera pieces that we have in our kit, and I'm also bringing in some of the sequin mix. Now I want you to be able to see through the entire shaker element through to that backing paper of the banners. So I've roughly cut another piece of acetate to fit the shape of my oval, and I'm going to glue that onto the back there. It will need time and a little bit of weight on top to help it set, and you can see now it's ready to go. Just giving it a one final check over to make sure it was sealed, and another layer of glue so we can now attach that to the front of our card base. And you can see those ephemera pieces, or the two little butterflies, sit really nicely in there and just give it a little bit extra colour and interest. I have used one of our sentiment dies from our previous kit, and I've got a gold shadow piece with a double layer of white in the very fine hello die cut there. Attached that there, and now I'm bringing in one of those really lovely little, well not so little, acetate butterflies, and I'm going to attach that to the top left side of my frame, and adding a little bit more sparkle to match back with the colours, the iridescent colours inside the frame, using the unicorn stickles as well. Just putting some colourful dots or little spots of glitter across the flowers there. And that will be card number 4 all finished. Card number 5, I've used a butterfly embossing folder, and you can use whatever embossing folder you actually like or have in your stash. I just wanted ones with butterflies because this kit seems to, or it is very full of very pretty butterflies. So I've die cut a panel of white and then run that through my embossing folder. I'm being quite liberal with my glue. I want to make sure that I'm getting glue on the surfaces that are going to sit nice and flat against our card front. Once I'm happy with where it's positioned, I'll use my hand to gently press it down into place. I then have a piece of the peachy pink cardstock, and I have our tape, a double-sided tape on the back of that, and I'm going to attach that to the front of my embossed piece of card. So that's going to sit in alignment with the smaller white butterfly embossed panel, and I'll give that a nice firm press onto the front. Onto that, I'm then going to add a slightly thinner strip of pale pink cardstock, and that is going to just a little bit of glue. I wasn't sure about the tape there, whether it would be strong enough to keep it in position. Would have been, I'm sure, but for some reason I decided to glue as well. So you can see I've built up a layer there on top of the darker pink, and now I'm bringing in a piece of our butterfly pattern paper, and I'm going to place that on top of the cardstock. And I think when you're using embossed panel like I have there, that's got quite a lot of detail, putting thinner paper onto a background or a backing of some cardstock really supports that thin paper patterned paper and keeps it nice and smooth and level. Now to finish the edges of where the butterfly paper meets the pale pink cardstock, I've cut myself a very thin strip of navy cardstock, and that's got our double-sided adhesive tape on the back. And I think that just frames up the patterned paper really nicely, and it allows the patterned paper and the embossed background to really set off against each other. Now I'm bringing in a sentiment here. It is popped up on some foam tape. One side is also got some cardstock behind it just to make sure it's level with the embossed side. To finish off my card, I'm bringing in some more of those lovely acetate butterflies, and I'm having to make sure that bottom layer of those butterflies is pressed nice and firmly onto the embossed paper so that we've got good adhesion across those different levels of embossed background. And I've brought in a second blue butterfly, and I'm going to place that above our banner onto the patterned paper. I wanted us to be able to still see all those lovely butterflies on the white embossed paper as well. I'm bringing in some acrylic gemstones that I've had in my stash for quite a while, and I just felt that the little touches of gold along with the colours in the gemstones just really matched really nicely back with the colours in the paper. Just trying to give you the closer up view of the gemstones, and you can see they're glittery as well as having some of the gold foil detailing in them as well. They are really lovely, and I think we'll just do there to match the two butterflies, and the card will be finished. I think it's very pretty and lots of lovely texture on it as well. Card number 6 is going to be in landscape orientation, and I've cut a piece of the really pretty plaid paper, and it's slightly smaller than our A2 card base. On top of this, I'm placing a piece of vellum that I've die cut with a slightly smaller nested die with the lacy loop edging. And onto that, I'm going to attach 3 of our cakes. Now you can see I have my cake there popped up on some foam tape and a little bit of glue to help hold it in place nice and firmly. Once the centre cake is positioned, I can then go ahead and take off the release paper for all the foam tape on both my cake images, and a little bit of glue there just gives me the time to just lift it up gently and move it back where I like it better. Okay, so all my cakes are now attached to my vellum. I can turn over my vellum piece and add glue on the back, so I can then attach it to my patterned paper, and it's going to be nice and firmly attached to that patterned paper, but you won't see any of the glue because it's hidden behind our cake pieces. And that's the beauty of putting those ephemera pieces on the front before you attach your vellum. I'm bringing in one of our chipboard sentiments that says celebrate, and I do put glue on those because I just don't feel that the glue on the back of them is secure enough to stay on there for very long. And next I'm bringing in some Touch of Gloss by Pink and Main, and I'm going to cover the glass dome over top of that pretty pink cake. So we've got a very reflective finish like we would if it was a glass dome over the cake stand. So I'm just gone around the edges and then I flood the interior of the design to fill in nice and evenly. I'm going to apply some of the gloss onto the pink cake stand so we get that nice finish as it would be if it was a glazed ceramic platter. I'm bringing in some of those unicorn stickles and I'm adding those onto the frosting of our cupcake or cupcakes to give a little bit of sparkly finish there. Now that the gloss has had a little time to settle, I can come back in and see where there are little air bubbles or pockets that need to be filled in. I'm also adding a little bit of the gloss to the cream decoration along the bottom of that cake, and that's finished. For card number 7, I'm creating a scene. So you can see I have some blue paper from our patterned paper pack, and I'm going to use that as the sky background. And then I've got some green patterned paper, and that is going to be down the bottom where my grass would be. And you can see I've already gone ahead and stamped my sentiment onto the bottom corner of that green patterned paper. Doing that now because I'm going to have lots of little ephemera pieces on my card, and this way I can stamp my sentiment without it getting smudged or in the way when I'm putting down my ephemera pieces. So I'm starting off by putting my largest piece down first, which is that large tree. I've then taken 2 of the lattice panels and I've popped that up with lots of little pieces of foam tape. I want that to be more in the foreground, and the foam tape helps to bring it to the foreground and push that tree into the background. I'm then coming in with some of the little shrub images, and I'm going to tuck one underneath the right side of the lattice panel, and then I've got another one here. I'm going to add some glue and put that next to my other shrub, but slightly raised up higher, just so we've got some different height and dimension there. So here I've got another one of our ephemera pieces, and it's that very cute little bird and the flower, and it's sitting on top of the lattice fenced area. Then I've got the sun and rainbow, and I've attached that or glued it to the top of my card. And then I'm coming in with some extra little decorations, including the little potted flower, and one side of that is raised up on foam tape and the other, the left side, is glued onto the lattice. I'm using a sparkle pen to go over my little sun, and then I'm using it to go over the flowers on the shrubs just to give them some dimension and some pretty sparkle. I'll also add it to the flower that the bird's holding, so we've got that continuation of the flowers being glittered. And then I'm going to add it just to the very pretty wings that our bird has. To the pot, I'm adding the glossy accents or touch of gloss, and that's going to give us some more dimension, but also a glossy finish like you can get with your potted plants. And then I'm going to add some more detail and texture by putting the glossy accents on the flowers as well. Now, to go along with the glossy accents in the foreground, I'm going to add 3 rows of glossy accent to the rainbow, and then in the alternate layers of the rainbow, I'm using the unicorn stickles there as well. Now I'm bringing in a little butterfly from the ephemera pack, and I wanted a little bit more of the yellow. As you can see, we've got that bright yellow sun. Just felt that we needed another little touch of yellow down on the bottom of the card. And there is my very cute little scene, all finished and ready to go to someone special. Card number 8. So I've taken a piece of the A2 size cardstock that's in our kit. I'm going to cover the entire front of our card base. And I'm just going around the edges there to make sure we've got good adhesion. I've taken the paper with the little plus signs or crosses on, and I've cut that smaller than our A2 card, and that's going to be our background for our decorative edges next. So the rainbow striped paper is from our paper pack this month. The other darker navy pattern paper that I've used a decorative die to give us a fancy border is a piece of paper from last month's kit that I had left over, and I wanted to integrate the colours of it into this design. And I think the colours in last month's kit and this month's kit go quite nicely together. So I've made my little decorative background. Here I have a piece of the yellow butterfly paper that I've used a scalloped die to give us that nice large scalloped circle. And to the back of that I've added a circle of foam, fun foam. Okay, you can see there, to get it nice and neat, I've used a circle die to run through my die machine and get a perfectly cut piece of fun foam. So before I attached that, I wanted to put my bird in the background and then put my centerpiece on. Here I've taken a piece of gold card and then one of the sticker elements from the kit with the lovely little swan. It says sweet little precious and loved, and I'm feeling like this card might be a very nice welcome to the world baby card, and I've tried to make it so it is gender neutral, so we've got a range of colours on there, and it could be used for either a baby boy or baby girl. And now to finish off, I'm going to add some more of those lovely little birds. We've got one on the top left, one in the bottom right, and I'm going to come in and add one of the heart ephemera pieces. You can see I've popped up the right hand side of the heart with some foam tape so it will stay level with our scalloped pattern paper in the center there. Here are some of the chipboard hearts, and I'm going to apply those onto my card. So we've got one down the bottom of the sentiment, another heart up the top, and I wanted something extra, so I've brought in the chipboard fishtail banner that has the same colour stripes as we do on the pattern paper at the bottom. And then I've brought in the smaller of the fishtail banners to layer next to the larger fishtail banner as well. And again, I've added glue to those to keep them secure. In my stash, I have a set of puffy hearts, and they're all different shapes and sizes and just happen to match very nicely with the colours in this collection. So I've added a couple extra of those onto the card as well. I'm going to add a little touch of gloss to details on the ephemera pieces, just to give another little bit of dimension and texture to the card as well. And then I decided we needed another one of those puffy hearts up in that corner, and I've attached that, and then I'm just picking out a final one because I felt like we needed a little bit more dimension or a bit more movement to direct the eye across the card, and it just felt better having that extra heart there. So here's a look back at all 8 cards I've made using our card bases from the kit. I have tried to use our frames in a number of different ways to make some shakers, and tried to show you different ways of being able to use multiple different patterned papers at a time on your cards. I really hope you've enjoyed the cards I've made. I'd love to hear if you have a favourite or if you have a favourite technique, and whether or not you have used your kit to make cards or other projects. Until next time, my crafty friends, bye bye for now.